Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Washington Post reporting the Justice Department's investigating former President Trump as part of its criminal probe into efforts to overturn the 2020 election. As part of the probe, prosecutors have reportedly received phone records of key officials within Trump's circle, including his former chief of staff, Mark Meadows. The Post also revealed 2 aides to former Vice President Mike Pence, his chief of staff, Mark Short, and lawyer Greg Jacob recently testified before a grand jury. On Tuesday, Attorney General Merrick Garland spoke to Lester Holt on NBC's Nightly News. Garland refused to rule out charging Donald Trump.
We intend to hold anyone who was criminally responsible for the events surrounding January 6th, for any attempt to interfere with the lawful transfer of power from one administration to another, accountable. That's what we do. We don't pay any attention to other issues with respect to that.
So if Donald Trump were to become a candidate for president again, that would not change your schedule or how you move forward or don't move forward?
Say again that we will hold accountable anyone who was criminally responsible for attempting to interfere with the legitimate, lawful transfer of power from one administration to the next.
Part of the Justice Department probes reportedly focused on an effort by Trump's team to submit fake electors who would claim to the Electoral College Trump had won states where he'd actually lost. On Tuesday, the New York Times revealed details of internal emails sent by lawyers working on this effort. In one email, the Arizona-based lawyer Jack Wilenchik described the plan as, quote, kind of wild, creative. He wrote, quote, "We would just be sending in fake electoral votes to Pence so that someone in Congress can make an objection when they start counting votes and start arguing that the fake votes should be counted," unquote. In a follow-up email, he wrote, quote, "Alternative votes is probably a better term than fake votes." He then added a smiley face emoji to the email. In related news, the House January 6 committee has released an audio clip from testimony by former acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller. He denied Trump ever gave a formal order to have 10,000 troops ready to be deployed to the Capitol on January 6, 2021, a claim that's been made by former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and others. In the clip, Miller was questioned by Committee Vice Chair Liz Cheney.
To be crystal clear, there was no direct order from President Trump to put 10,000 troops to be on the ready for January 6th, correct?
No. That's correct. There was no order from the president.
On Tuesday, Donald Trump gave his first speech in Washington since leaving office. He hinted he may run for president again. Oregon Governor Kate Brown has declared a state of emergency in 25 counties due to a scorching heat wave in the Pacific Northwest. In Portland, temperatures reached 102 degrees Fahrenheit Tuesday, breaking a new daily record, which had been set just 2 years ago. Forecasts show temperatures could rise above 110 degrees Fahrenheit in eastern Washington later this week. Meanwhile, in Missouri, at least one person has died in massive flooding after more than 9 inches of rain fell in the St. Louis region. The storm broke a century-old record and came after a period when the region was experiencing an extended drought. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, at least 15 people have died after a series of protests targeting UN troops who have been stationed in Congo since 1999. On Monday, protesters in the city of Goma stormed the headquarters of the UN peacekeeping force known as MONUSCO. Some UN personnel had to be airlifted to safety. In a separate incident, one UN peacekeeper from Morocco and 2 UN police officers from India were killed in the city of Butembo. Protesters have accused the United Nations of failing to protect civilians from attacks by various armed groups in the region.
They are tear gassing us because we came to say that MONUSCO does not help us. They've been in Congo for 22 years and nothing works. We came to demand our rights, but they shoot us with tear gas.
Russia has announced it plans to withdraw from the International Space Station after 2024 and build its own orbital station. The United States and Russia have been the core stakeholders in the project, which has long been a symbol of cooperation between Washington, D.C. and Moscow after the Cold War. U.S. basketball superstar Brittany Griner's testifying today in a Russian courtroom as her trial continues. She's been jailed since February when she was arrested at the Moscow airport for possession of cannabis oil in her luggage. On Tuesday, Griner's legal team argued she had the cannabis oil for legitimate medical uses. A Russian narcologist was questioned by Griner's attorney, Maria Blagvolina.
Based on what you just have said, did we understand you correctly that a professional athlete suffering from chronic pain could have been prescribed medical cannabis in the U.S.? For example, in the U.S. as a therapy?
I cannot testify for a doctor working in the United States because they have their own standards of diagnostics and treatment, but these types of treatments are prescribed. This is a fact.
The family of slain Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh is calling on the United States to launch an independent investigation into her killing. On Tuesday, 3 members of her family met with Secretary of State Tony Blinken at the State Department. The Al Jazeera correspondent was shot dead in the occupied West Bank while covering an Israeli military raid in the Jenin refugee camp. The United Nations, as well as numerous news organizations, have concluded she was shot by an Israeli soldier. Earlier this month, the U.S. said the bullet that killed her likely came from Israeli military gunfire, but stopped short of saying investigators had reached a definitive conclusion in her killing. The U.S. said her death was, quote, the result of tragic circumstances, unquote. Abu Akleh's family criticized the Biden administration's statement, saying, quote, for far too long, the United States has enabled Israel to kill with impunity by providing weapons, immunity, and diplomatic cover. Impunity leads to repetition. We're here to do our part to ensure that this cycle ends, they said. The director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, Michael Carvajal, came under intense criticism during a Senate subcommittee hearing Tuesday examining the horrific conditions inside the federal penitentiary in Atlanta, Georgia, where at least 13 people have died by suicide since 2012. Georgia Senator John Ossoff, who chairs the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigation, said the conditions inside the prison were, quote, abusive and inhumane.
Inmates hanging themselves in federal prisons, addicted to and high on drugs that flow into the facilities virtually openly. And as they hang and suffocate in the custody of the U.S. government, there's no urgent response from members of the staff. Year after year after year.
A former administrator at the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary, Terry Whitehead, also testified at Tuesday's Senate subcommittee hearing on conditions at the prison.
I was shocked and appalled by the USP Atlanta big picture. On a daily basis, there were numerous policy violations which put the staff, inmates, and the local community in danger. For example, there were so many rats inside the facility dining hall and food preparation areas that staff intentionally left doors open so the many stray cats that hung around the prison could catch the rats. It is never a good idea to leave prison doors open.
In other prison news, 28 women who were held in a county jail in Indiana have filed lawsuits over what's being described as a night of terror. The women say they were raped, groped, and assaulted by male prisoners inside the Clark County Jail after a jail official gave 2 male prisoners keys to the women's area in exchange for $1,000. The lawsuit also claims jail officials allowed the attack to go on for hours, even though it could be seen on surveillance video. 20 women filed a lawsuit in June. 8 more filed a lawsuit this week. And the Senate has voted to advance a bill to provide as much as $76 billion in corporate subsidies to companies making semiconductor chips in the United States. Senator Bernie Sanders said he supported expanding domestic microchip production, but opposed subsidizing the industry.
Should American taxpayers provide the microchip industry with a blank check of over $76 billion at the same exact time when semiconductor companies are making tens of billions of dollars in profits and paying their CEOs exorbitant compensation packages.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now! Co-host Juan Gonzalez in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.